Welcome, folks, to episode number 62 of the No Conference for Old Men podcast where three old guys are talking Houston Cougars basketball with just a little bit of Big 12 coverage added in as well, and proud members of the GoCoogs.com network, the undisputed number one Houston Cougars content provider. And we're back with all three old men, Bill Walker, former player, Tom Lydiak, former coach, and myself, Steve Chang, analytics guy, for this episode. So it's been a pretty quick turnaround from our last episode, since we've got another game in a few days on Wednesday after getting 2 wins to open the season over Lehigh and then a tough Towson team to end week 1. And surprise, surprise, when the new AP rankings came out today, we were in our rightful place at number 1 over Purdue after they had a very sluggish win over the very Oakland team that we've got up next. So given how early in the season we are, we're going to provide maybe, I guess, what I'll call a quick summary of the 2 games that we won, and we'll just do it together. Share some additional thoughts and perspectives on the team so far, and then really finally getting into the preview of the next 2 games versus Oakland and Auburn. So, Tom, why don't you get us started with your overall view from the 2 wins, the 75-57 win over Lehigh, as well as the 65-48 win over Towson.
Yeah, in the Lehigh game, first game of the year, band was into it. Students were into it. Fertitta filled in nicely, unfurled the banner, the Final Four banner. So, a lot of hoopla before the game. Same starters that started against Lehigh, started against Mississippi State in the exhibition. I guess I was more interested in who the first guys off the bench were. Seiko, he came off the bench first. You had Harwell, and I believe you had McCarty. Were the first guys off the bench, so that kind of answers some of my questions. Lehigh game, Lehigh was scrappy. I kind of was sitting there. I think all of us were kind of sitting there waiting for the knockout punch to come, and it never did come against them. They were scrappy. It was obvious the newbies, the newcomers, need a lot of work on the defensive end, but those first couple of minutes were pretty exciting. Steve and I were sitting close together. Kingston hits the 3. Sanak hits 2 threes and gets a dunk. Yep. And it was like, holy buckets. Yep. Haven't seen this kind of athleticism since Phi Slamma Jamma. Yep. Kind of brought back some memories from those days. But good credit to Lehigh. They're well coached. They had 11 guys coming back. They did get the ball in the paint quite a bit off the dribble. So I'm sure after the Lehigh game, I'm sure Kelvin and staff looked at the film and just hammered in on some stuff. We're a work in progress, So I think you'll see incremental steps, just about every game the rest of the year.
And how about the Towson game? Let's just highlight the kind of summaries from both.
Towson, the good squad once again, well coached, scrappy. I think at one time the score was like 49-44, and we ended the game, I think, on about 16-2, 16-4 run. I think in that game, Emmanuel got a couple of quick fouls. Kelvin had mentioned in a meeting with some reporters that he was going to start rewarding some guys that have practiced really hard. And the first half, you saw Sed get some time. You saw Mercy get some time earlier than they did the other day. So it was kind of obvious that those 2 were the ones that were working hard at practice, and Coach Sampson wanted to reward them. Kingston, he's the real deal. Steve, you've been saying it for a long, long time since he was in high school. I should have never doubted you, even though not that I was, but real deal. Sanak kind of had a little problem getting a shot to go down, but I think he had 13 rebounds, and Kelvin had Kingston and Sanak at the podium at the press conference. So that says something what he thinks about these 2 freshmen. Yeah, just a scrappy Towson team, and getting ready for Oakland.
Nice. How about you, Bill? What's kind of your players' take from the 2 games?
Before getting into any game talk, I think priority number 1 is to congratulate Coach Sampson on 800 wins, which occurred
during
the Lehigh game. Incredible achievement. and I hope I'm around to see number 900. On to the
I hope
games.
so too.
Yeah, we all are. Debatable, but
well, I'm hoping he stays,
for
right?
three
At
old
least he
men.
stays.
Well, that too. On to the games. I think Calvin said it best when at the celebration following the Lehigh win, he said he loves making his teams better. So he's really going to have a lot of love for this team.
Yeah, no kidding.
And that was pretty evident. In game one, there were some definite highlights. Sharp, for sure, with his 24 points, especially. And Cenac looked really good on the offensive end in the first half. He also pulled down 10 boards to lead us. Tugler blocked 4 shots. Harwell came off the bench and had 4 steals. McCarty looked good defensively up until he put up his hand and was exhausted, said, "Take me out," which I've never seen with any Kelvin players. And Uzan had his moments as well. Yeah, the negatives were the shooting, the turnovers, and in some cases, well, the turnovers in some cases, and especially with Tugler, who had 5. Yeah. And I think Tugler's maybe being, and it looked this way in both games, a little too eager to do a little more, as you know, he's taking over for Roberts to an extent, and his role's changing a bit. So it looked like he was just trying to do a little too much and adjust to his new roles and responsibilities. And I think that may have been the case for a lot of the players now that Wilson, Francis, Cryer, and especially Roberts are gone.
Yeah.
Towson, different story. We played 10 players, but not, Tom, you mentioned the couple guys that came off the bench, but really not an overwhelming number of bench minutes were played. And I think that had a lot to do with the fact that we just couldn't put Towson away.
Exactly.
We held them to only 48 points, but the issue in that game was clearly offense, where we took, and I've never seen this with a Kelvin team, 32 of our 62 shots were from behind the arc, and we only hit 8. If there was ever a time where not having Roberts was evident, it was this game. And I'm sure the staff's working on establishing more of an inside presence, but looks like this will be a pretty heavily perimeter-oriented team this year, which I think we all expected. And I'll mention 3 players from Saturday. Fleming's obviously, he was the star. 20 points, 8 of 10 shooting, a lot of dribble penetration, which was great to see. A couple of dunks. And Tugler did have 15 points, 8 boards, and he had 5 steals, which was great. And he was more of a force inside, and I think he's clearly working toward becoming our primary inside threat. And lastly, the guy I want to mention is Cenac, sorry. He led us with 13 boards, which was solid, but only 4 points on 2 of 8 shooting. And I was at the game, sat and watched it, and a lot of those shots came late when he was getting the ball, and he just instantly shot. It was almost a bit of a black hole, and he looked a little frustrated. I think he wanted to be a little bit more involved in the offense and get up some more shots, and so you could kind of see his frustration. Bottom line, these were 2 pretty ugly games. A ton of outside shooting that wasn't particularly successful, 25 turnovers, and just not a real positive flow other than maybe the first half versus Lehigh. But, and I know I've beaten this horse to death, it's games 1 and 2 of a new season with a new roles, new young players. Everyone's learning curve is a little bit more than it's been in the past. Kelvin and staff will ensure that the players navigate what they need to navigate, that they fit into their roles and they're comfortable when they need to be comfortable. It's early. We'll be okay.
Yeah, and we'll get into a little bit of that with some of our initial thoughts in the next segment too, as we kind of elaborate a little bit more. But for me, it was just great to actually get games started and the freshmen's kind of feet wet to kick off our season. As you guys both highlighted, started two freshmen in Kingston Flemings and Chris Sinak, along with Tugler, Sharp, and Uzan. And we also saw a third freshman, Isaiah Harwell, play significant minutes in game 1-2 before kind of sitting out game 2 for precautionary reasons with his knee. Not sure Sampson has ever relied on so many freshmen in his whole coaching career because, as we know, he likes his experienced players, especially with the demands of his complex defensive schemes. Obviously, won both games handily, as you guys had mentioned, though the Towson one was really very tricky and sticky late into the second half. But as expected, and hopefully most of our fans have this mindset as well this season, it's going to be a bit sloppy early on when you've got three freshmen playing so many minutes. Now, as the analytics guy, I'm not going to go into details for this because in either game, because it's pretty meaningless this early on with three freshmen plus lots of bench players logging lots of minutes. And we're still just trying to build some chemistry as well. But at a high level, we're still playing hard-nosed deep, even with the newcomers. So even though we're a bit late in some of our defensive rotations for now, we're still making it tough for our opponents to make shots. We're still forcing turnovers at a pretty high rate. And in game 1, at least, we're still blocking a lot of shots with Tugler and now Sinak, making it tough inside. But the two things that clearly our coaching staff will be zeroing in on with the kids to correct going into Wednesday's game are a high turnover rate, as you had kind of highlighted, Bill, and we were at almost 19% turnovers, where we've always been exceptional at protecting the ball historically and taking good shots on offense, especially from three-point range, where we're currently 10 points below our standard last season averages after 2 games. But again, it's early on. But what do you guys kind of like or dislike with this team so far, or maybe just any interesting observations you guys may have from either a coach's or player's perspective? And Bill, why don't you start? I know you started talking a little bit about it, but what are you seeing with this team so far that you want to highlight for listeners?
Yeah, nothing definitive from me because it's too early games. It's young players, as you alluded to. People are getting used to their roles. People are getting used to new responsibilities. Uzan was the point guard last year. Now he's sharing that with Flemings. He's playing some two, a fair amount of two. So, it's different roles. Sharp's role is going to be different. Tugler's role is clearly different.
Yeah.
So it's a learning process. Like I said, there's a learning curve, and people are trying to navigate that. The players are trying to navigate that. The coaches are going to navigate that for the players, and it's just going to take some time. So, I'm fine with everything. They're playing hard. They only gave up 48 points in the second game against Towson. So, the defense is there. I was surprised, like I said, that 32 of our 62 shots were from behind the arc.
That's a good observation.
That was a big number, and unfortunately, we only hit 8 of them. That's going to improve. I did like the fact that we were moving the ball well. Flemings took the ball to the hoop because we were having some difficulties offensively, but he's looking to get the ball to the shooters and to Tugler, to Sharp, to Uzan, to Sinak. It's still an unselfish team. We're gonna be okay. Everything's fine. It's just gonna take some time, and we may not win all the preseason or pre-conference games that maybe people are hoping we would. We didn't do that last year, and look where we ended up. We're almost national champions. So I'm okay with everything right now. We'll see how things progress, but I think we will progress and we'll be okay.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I was curious from a player's perspective, now that you've seen all the new kids as well, 2 games in, anyone surprised you at all now that you've seen them actually playing in games?
Well, I'd seen Flemings prior to coming here. So what he's doing isn't particularly surprising me at all. And you and I have talked about him previously. I liked him a lot coming in. Harwell, they're I think limiting his minutes. He didn't play at all against Towson.
Game two,
So it's we'll see. McCarty's getting minutes, which I like to see, and I like the fact that he's playing. His reputation is for being a shooter, but he's actually played very well on the defensive end so far, and I like seeing that. Sanak is getting boards, and you can see that he's going to have a good year. He's going to be one and done. Towson didn't go particularly well offensively, and you could see he was a little frustrated with that, as I mentioned. But yeah, I like what I see there.
Cool.
I thought after he came out and hit a three right away, and then hit that kind of the crazy left-handed drive to the hoop and put up 5 quick points, that Mercy might play a little more, and then he never got off the bench in the second half. So, we'll continue to see going forward. But that's about it for me so far. Tugler, you can see that Tugler is really trying to establish himself inside, and I think that's why he's had 8 turnovers in the first 2 games, which is quite a bit. But I think those are in large part turnovers due to aggression, as opposed to making dumb passes, just quite honestly stupid turnovers. I think his are a byproduct of really being aggressive and trying to do a lot right now, and that's fine. No problem. He's going to fit into everything and into his role, and we'll be okay.
Okay. How about you, Tom, from your coach's perspective with the team so far?
In Tugler's defense, I just think he's rusty, kind of like JVA last year, who missed like 19 practices and looked like he was playing with 2 ping pong paddles. JoJo wasn't cleared for like 5-on-5 play
very late,
and until like right before the Mississippi State exhibition. So I just think he's kind of rusty. And I believe the post moves, he has them. He has post moves. A couple of those he kind of rushed, I thought. Kind of just threw up there. Offensively, I've seen a lot of ball movement. I don't know what that was.
Was it me?
I don't know.
That might have been me.
DEFCON 1 or what? But no, ball movement's been really, really nice. In the Towson game, Kingston set up Uzan and Sharp with some nice passes, and they just didn't knock the shots down. Shots that they normally hit, they didn't knock them down. Defensively, like I said, it's a work in progress too, with so many young guys out there. 4 of our top 8 are freshmen. When you consider Sanak, Harwell, Kingston, and then you got McCarty's redshirt freshman. So that's Kelvin hasn't had a team like this. I don't know. I don't think in this whole tenure where we had so many inexperienced young guys. So
I thought he was pretty patient with them too when I watched the games.
Well, you got to remember Kingston had like 3 turnovers early in the Towson game, and if that had been Shed,
I know, right?
or Giroux or Galen, they probably wouldn't have any hide left. So it's obvious Kelvin trusts those 2. He trusts them a lot. He trusts Sanak, and he trusts especially Kingston.
Yeah.
Oh, he got on both of them at the game.
Did it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought for some of those turnovers, he just didn't seem to light up like he has historically with some of the kids.
And in the past, some of those young guys probably would have been pulled, shed,
exactly.
But for
he
the
did
top,
pull. He did pull Sinak.
did he?
Yeah, at one point during the first
Yeah.
half.
I know he
I
ripped.
can't remember what the issue was, but I turned to my friend. You guys know Rob. I turned to Rob and I said, "Sinak's on his way out," and 2 seconds later he was.
Well, no, Kelvin in that first game against Lehigh, he ripped Harwell a good one for a quick shot. And in Kelvin's kind of system, if you push the ball and it's not there, one of the worst shots you can shoot is with like 10 seconds into the shot clock. It's kind of like complimentary football. You have a strong defense, strong running game. The way Kelvin coaches, offense goes hand in hand with the defense, and you just don't want to get in the habit of going down and, chucking it, make one pass and chucking it up. Somebody used to call that the vomit offense, one pass and throw it up. But to get back to your question, Steve, I just think better ball movement, and those shots eventually will go down with Milos and E-Man, and then just it's just going to be a work in progress every game, every practice to get better on the defensive end. Bill, you mentioned McCarty. I'm a McCarty fan. I just like the way he plays. He's he goes in there and he's really focused on the defensive end. So I really like what we've seen him in these first 2 games.
Yeah, completely agree. He's been active, right? Really active, which I appreciate. Anything you see from a coaching perspective? Any, with some of these new kids? I thought you had highlighted maybe some changes on the offensive sets as well versus historically.
I don't think so. Pretty much, Kelvin's not going to reinvent the wheel. Don't fix what's not broken. I did notice on the defense end, especially in our first game, boy, our monster needs a lot of work.
Yeah,
I
agree.
It's not the suffocating Reggie Chaney.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the other ones were. Fabian White, Reggie Chaney, Bryson Grisham. Those guys when they monstered. Sinak did get a foul called on a monster. They called him for cylinder violation, but that. And I thought probably one of our best lineups is when Sinak went to the bench and we had McCarty in there. We kind of went small. We had Tugler, McCarty. Yeah. We had Uzan, Flemings, and Sharp in there. I thought that lineup really clicked in the Towson game. But overall, like schematically, I haven't really looked at any kind of sets that Kelvin's been running. He did run what they call floppy sets in that first game against Lehigh, where you have Sharp and Uzan kind of coming off some pin down screens, but that's nothing new in Kelvin's repertoire. He's got a million things in his he's got a million things in his mind that he can do. That's what 40 years of coaching or 45 years of coaching does to you.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, for me, there's nothing to really take away from an analytics perspective. Again, it's still early on, but with my eye, I'd say we can actually see some patterns that I believe are interesting for fans to pay attention to as the season go on. And, first off, I think we all acknowledge concerns around inside scoring with Robert's graduation. I know, Bill, that's probably been your biggest worry up to this point. But if you look at the stats, our shooting's actually been better from 2-point range so far. And we're seeing a concerted effort to ensure Tugler gets his touches down low frequently on offense. Now, I'm not going to claim that his low post game is anywhere near as polished as Roberts' was, but he's shooting at a reasonable clip early on and will only get better as he gets more comfortable. And quite honestly, more importantly, more patient before he makes his move.
I agree. I totally agree.
Right? Yeah, right. He's got a good feel. I think you highlighted that. I think Tom highlighted that as well. When he's got his back to the basket, he's got a good feel for the defender when he's posting up. Another change that I think folks should pay attention to is you're going to see a different way for us to get inside the paint scoring. And what I mean by that, it may not be just Tugler or Sanak low post. With Fleming's capability to basically break down, right, whoever's guarding him up front, I think we're just going to see him just take it to the hoop, and it's going to be layups, easy layups, or dump offs for a dunk with both Tugler and Sanak moving forward. It'll be a kind of speed to the basket that we just haven't seen historically with our program. Now, the second point I'll highlight is you guys had kind of spoken to this as well, the high turnover rate so far. And I think that works itself out as well pretty quickly in my mind. Early on, if you look at the numbers, it's primarily Tugler and Fleming's needing to be a little bit more careful with the ball. We're playing a lot through Tugler, way more than even I expected. So as you had really mentioned a few times, Bill, it's new for him because he's gone from secondary front court player next to Roberts to now the guy, and it feels like at least it's like 80% of the time we're going down the ball, he gets to touch it. And that's going to be new and an adjustment for him to make plays. And Fleming's is just a freshman and still trying to get used to the speed of the defense in college. Both will work their way through, and I'm pretty confident by Thanksgiving. And so we'll see how that plays out. And then the third thing I'll highlight is finally our three-point shooting woes so far. We still have Sharp, Uzan, two of our three sharp shooters from last season, plus Harwell, McCarty, and Sanak from the four. So I believe the shooting will get better, and we'll certainly have more players able to shoot the three as the chemistry gets better and we're more patient on offense, especially with the freshmen. I think, Tom, you had highlighted, right? Some of the freshmen, I think they're used to playing high school ball, AAU ball, and the trigger to take a shot is happening way too early in the offensive sets sometimes. And so, but I think the youngsters will learn during this pre-conference slate, and we're going to see a better shot selection and folks getting a better understanding of where people like to get their shots as well as we move forward. So that chemistry thing is going to be critically important. So now we move on to the two games this coming week for Houston. Oakland at home, and then our first big challenge at SEC Bellwether Auburn. Tom, why don't you take the Oakland game, kind of your coach's view on the Oakland game first?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. Oakland's coached by Greg Campbell. I think he's getting close to 50 years as far as coaching. I'm not sure. I think he's been at Oakland, the whole time. They were Division II, and then he oversaw them going into Division I ranks. So really, really good coach. I'm really looking forward to this one because Campy runs primarily zone. Very, very interesting zone. Matter of fact, I have the video of it. Bought that one a couple of years ago. Never used it though, but I watched it yesterday. Kind of refreshed my memory. It's a unique zone with some unique slides. Campy even mentions on the video that one of the weaknesses is rebounding. So we got to really get some offensive rebounds. I'm sure our goal is to get 50% of our misses, especially if we continue to shoot the three like we do.
Yeah,
we'll need to really hammer the glass. There'll be opportunities for Kingston, I think, to dribble penetrate against his zone and set up Uzan and Sharp for some threes. Having Sanak out there, probably in the high post area, I call it the logo area. It's that free throw elbow kind of area. Having Sanak in that area is going to be good for us in Wednesday night's game because Sanak's the kind of guy that can catch the ball in the middle and be a playmaker, whether it's shooting or passing, and JoJo down low. So I'm really looking forward to this. I just want to see how we attack this zone, and I'm sure that's probably one of the reasons why Kelvin scheduled this game is, he schedules for a reason, and I'm sure this Oakland game, he knows Greg plays, zone, and you don't want to go into conference play and haven't really played against any zone yet, and all of a sudden you see one. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Just hammer the weak side board. Shot goes up, get at least two guys on the weak side board. Don't make the shot, get second opportunities, and don't fall in love with the three. It's fool's gold. A lot of times, people think, well, to beat a zone, you have to really shoot well from the outside. Well, that's kind of true. You can get the ball inside against a zone.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Bill, from a player's perspective on the Oakland game?
Well, from what I've seen, Oakland has unanimously been predicted to come in fourth in the horizon. So not the typically top of the horizon like they're often predicted. And they were only 16-18 last year with a lot of new players coming in, and a lot of those players are back. And I agree with you, Tom. I think Campy's a really, really good coach. So they'll be competitive. They're 0-2 so far, but their two games have been against top 10 opponents. They were at Michigan. They lost 121-78. And then they were at Purdue, where they were tied at halftime, but lost 87-77. They are, and this I'm sure will change, but at the moment, and I don't want to step on your toes, Steve, getting into this, but
no
I believe they're 277 in Ken Palm in defense. Horrific so far. So, that's that. They gave up, I think it was Michigan.
It was Michigan. Game
Michigan, it was 64% from the field and 54% they gave up from three. So, I mean, it was just shoot and score at will. They gave up, I want to say maybe, was it 52 points, I think, in the second half to Purdue. So they've really been horrific defensively. And that's good, because our offense hasn't been especially fluid so far. So this is a game where we can really get some things corrected. I'll rattle off a few of their players. They've got one actually NBA prospect. His name's Buru Naiva Lurua. He 6'6" small forward. He can do everything. His uniform number is number 12. So watch for number 12. He had 18-5, 18 points, 5 boards against Michigan. He had 11 points, 7 boards, 4 assists against Purdue. He is their best player. Their second best player is probably a kid named Brody Robinson. 11. I think he may be from UT Arlington. He just came in. He had 11 points, 5 assists, 5'11" point guard, 11 points, 5 assists against Michigan, 11 points, 4 assists against Purdue. They've got a 6'9" forward named Isaac Garrett. He had 20 points against Michigan. He had 10, 5, and 3 assists against Purdue. And then the other one I'll mention is Zaire Wells, 6'6", another 6'6" small forward. He had 14 and 6 boards against Michigan, and he had 21 and 12 against Purdue. So they've got some players that can put up some stats and that obviously can score. But again, they were in relatively high scoring games so far, where they scored 78 and 77. This team really is essentially 5 deep. Not a lot, not at least in the first 2 games, not a lot off the bench. They shoot okay if they're open, but they have absolutely no real inside presence.
Yeah.
And like I said, they've played 0 defense in their first 2 games. Buru, again, is a legitimate NBA prospect, so he'll likely, I imagine, be a handful for Sharp. And Robinson is a pretty quick point guard who can create and score. But I think this is going to be a game where our offense is going to right the ship and begin its ascension heading into Auburn and the other stronger non-conference games. I see us winning this one 84-68.
Oh, wow. Nice. So, from an analytics perspective, when you look at Oakland so far, they have not been great at anything, right? They're 222nd currently in Ken Palm after destruction at the hands of Michigan. However, as noted earlier, they kept within 10 points in their most recent loss to Purdue. And that's really the main reason why we ascended to number one in this week's poll.
The other
Oakland,
thing, sorry, Steve, the other thing
yeah,
is that Purdue didn't have all their players in that game. Kaufman
right.
Wren didn't play, and so
Yeah.
take that
They're
for what it's worth.
their most athletic player, right, basically was not in the game. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, as you'd highlighted as well, Oakland's been terrible at shooting, offensive rebounding, and they're one of the worst defensive teams in the country so far this season. So this is a perfect game for our Houston Cougars to continue to work out the kinks. But again, we can't get overconfident given how well they did actually against Purdue. Expect coach and UH to focus on quicker rotations on D, emphasize offensive rebounding, especially with our guards, because I'd say that's the difference so far. I think our bigs have rebounded fine, but our guards are not rebounding at the rate that they were last season. And then really being more patient in getting the right 3-point shot with each possession. While on D, I expect both Sacco and Sanak to focus more on their timing in blocking shots as well, because really our only shot blocker so far has been Tugler. And he's a great one, but we need some help as well. Now, based on the metrics, this is actually projected to be a 25-point win at home for the Cougs based on Ken Palm. In my opinion, we're just going to continue to focus on working on different lineups, ironing out our sets on both defense and offense, and playing lots of kids until we figure things out. So I'm actually projecting this to be closer than the metrics with all the new kids, and I'm expecting an 18-point win, maybe 78-60 at home. And now, finally, we talk about Auburn, our very first big challenge for this season after 3 warm-up games. Bills, what's your kind of players' take on the Auburn game?
Okay, a little more here. Auburn, and I'm not even going to get into the stuff with Bruce Pearl leaving. He obviously resigned. His son is now the coach, who he was grooming to take over ultimately. Not entirely unlike what the situation at U of H, but a lot of speculation as to why Pearl left, and I'm not no point getting into any of that. Auburn coming into this year, they had a great year last year, Final Four. This year I've seen them picked either 5th or 6th preseason in the SEC, and they've got 0 starters back, and their first 2 games have been really interesting. They scored 95 in both games. The first one against Bethune-Cookman, who is supposed to be actually very good in their conference this year. They beat 95-90 in overtime. Bethune-Cookman, by the way, if you guys don't know, is coached by a former great player at UNLV and a great point guard in the NBA, largely for the Chicago Bulls, all-star Reggie Theus. And he's done a very good job at Bethune-Cookman.
I didn't know he was coaching there.
Yes, he is their head coach.
Okay.
Yep. Second game, they scored 95 again. They beat Merrimack, powerhouse Merrimack, 95-57. The interesting thing in these 2 games is that, and listen to these stats. First of all, Bethune-Cookman committed 24 fouls against Auburn. Merrimack committed 27. So that'll tell you not so much about those 2 teams, but about the way Auburn's playing offense, their offensive strategy. But here's some really interesting stats. Bethune-Cookman, Auburn was 27 of 38 at the free throw line. Merrimack, 27 of 37 at the free throw line. 3-pointers, Bethune-Cookman, 6 of 23. Merrimack, 6 of 24. So not especially good outside shooting, and I think that's going to be the case for Auburn throughout the year, but a ton of free throws.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
they've got. I'll mention four players. Well, I'll mention five. One guy who not particularly outstanding at anything is a guy named Filip Jovic, and he's from Serbia, 6'8" forward. We'll get into the four that are going to put up the most statistics and are the four best players. Tahad Pettiford, 6'1" point guard, sophomore. Most will remember him. He was a 5-star coming in, came off the bench last year, torched us in the Toyota Center. So he's back. Shooting guard, 6'5", Kevin Overton. He is a transfer from Tech, where he played last year. Prior to that, he was at Drake. He's actually a very good player. He came off the bench for Tech last year, wasn't happy with his minutes, and now he's starting at Auburn. He's an inconsistent shooter. He's highly rated in terms of his shooting, but he's been largely inconsistent. But that may change when he's playing starters minutes and playing more minutes at Auburn. And he's a good defensive player. The next one, and I wasn't even going to mention him, but people will be interested. Sebastian Williams Adams. He is from St. John's High School in Houston. He is a freshman. He was the number 10 rated forward in the nation last year, and I think he was maybe the number 45 or 48 overall player coming out. He's a point forward, 6'8", 230, extraordinarily talented. He can guard point guards, he can guard centers, he can handle the ball really well. He is not a shooter, but he can score his points. And the final guy that I will mention, who I will talk a little bit about the most, Keyshawn Hall. He's number 7 when we play them. Transfer from Central Florida, and prior to Central Florida, he started UNLV, then went to George Mason, Central Florida, and now Auburn. 6'7" forward. In the first 2 games, he scored 28 led Auburn with 28 against Bethune-Cookman, 25 against Merrimack, and had, what did he have? He had 14 boards, I believe, against Merrimack as well in only 26 minutes. He takes a ton of shots. He is essentially a black hole, but he also hits the boards, as I mentioned, the 14 in 26 minutes against Merrimack. He led the Big 12 in scoring last year. He is also a turnover machine. So he shoots, he scores, and he turns the ball over. Versus U of H, if anyone's interested, because he's played us once previously in the 69-68 game where Roberts hit the game winner virtually at the buzzer. He played 35 minutes against us, 2 of 12 from the field, 2 of 6 from the line. His stat line was 11 points. 11 points. I think he had 3 boards and 5 turnovers against us.
Nice.
He will probably come into this game with a chip on his shoulder, I would imagine, having played so poorly last year and having been completely shut down by us. But the first 2 games, 53 points, and he is their leading scorer, and he will be by far their leading shot taker.
Yeah.
So that's their players. There's not a ton of height on this team, but as I mentioned, Auburn goes to the rack. They draw fouls, as I mentioned. They're going to do that against us and against everybody. U of H needs to be solid defensively. We need to keep the ball in front of us as much as possible, and just not commit dumb fouls. No reaching, just no dumb fouls, because the whistle is going to blow a lot, and that's just because Auburn creates fouls. Offensively, we need to move the ball. We need to hit more of our open shots, obviously. We need to draw fouls from them. We need to make them work their butts off defensively, and Snack and Tugler need to be effective both scoring and offensive rebounding, because this is not a big team that we're playing against. It's early in the season, so who knows if it's a good or a not so good matchup. It's not going to predicate anything going forward. It's early. Whatever happens. We may win, we may lose. No, it's not a big deal. But in this one, even though we're playing this on the road, I think ultimately coaching will prevail, and I think we win this game 79-76.
All right. How about you, Tom, from a coach's perspective on the Auburn game?
Well, I had something to what Bill said about Keyshawn Hall. He scores, he rebounds, he loses.
I love it.
Yeah, he loses the ball.
Everywhere he's been, he hasn't played for a winner. Stats look good and all that. But Bill went over the personnel. Auburn's. You mentioned they played Merrimack. Merrimack's a team that plays nothing but 2-3 zone. I studied their zone too. A guy named Joe Gallo. Anyway, first game on the road for our young guys. It's at Birmingham, so that'll be interesting. I think.
Yeah.
First
nice test.
It's not exact. Technically it's not a home court, but hey, it's Birmingham.
But it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's going to be. It's going to be almost 100% Auburn fans. So. First road game.
That's right.
Probably tell us a lot about our young guys. I have a sneaking suspicion that it's not going to bother Kingston Flemings.
Yeah, probably
not. Or Sinak.
Yeah.
And then our other guys are experienced. Then you got McCarty and you got Harwell, who I think sat out because of some knee stiffness, maybe.
Yeah,
in the Towson game,
though. Yeah,
and Cordell didn't warm up either, so he had something going on too. Another good matchup on Sunday for us after the Oakland game is to see what Auburn has. But you take a look at their roster, probably not as talented as Auburn's been. Last several years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a factor in Bruce Pearl stepping down, but I'm sure he did the old thing that Dean Smith back in the day. You step down right before the season starts, so you can pretty much name your successor. The difference between Stephen Pearl and Kellen is Kellen has it in writing, and I don't think Stephen Pearl had that in writing. But we'll see.
They named him. That he's not an interim. He's their coach.
Steve, yeah. But was it in writing that when Bruce Pearl, I guess what I'm saying is, was it in Bruce Pearl or Stephen Pearl's contract that when Bruce stepped down that Stephen will be the coach? I don't know if that was in writing or not. Kellen's
I have no idea.
Yeah,
no
Kellen's is. But anyway, so yeah, those are my thoughts on Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big early season challenge with Auburn coming in at number 36 in Ken Palm. Big name team from the SEC that really will help cement how the P4 conferences will be perceived this season with all these pre-conference games. But this is a different Auburn team, as you guys had both highlighted, with Coach Bruce Pearl retiring before the start of the season and his son taking over. Now, if you look at the advanced analytics, Auburn's currently 31st in adjusted offensive efficiency and number 59 in adjusted defensive efficiency. But again, small sample size and skewed by their surprisingly tough win over Bethune-Cookman in overtime in game one. But they did right the ship in game two, kind of win over Merrimack. Auburn is obviously very familiar with how we play now, this being the third time in 4 years having played us. So they should be better prepared on offense against our relentless D than any other usual typical team. But they also don't shoot the ball very well, 149th in effective field goal percentage. And they've been even worse than us from 3-point range, ranking 284th. Is that shocking? I didn't think you could get much worse than us, but Auburn's worse. But like us, they... Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, like I said, 6 of 23 in game one and 6 of 24 in game two.
Terrible. But they're also like us in making up for that type of missing through their offensive rebounding, where they're 7th in Ken Palm. On D, this is where Auburn's been actually pretty impressive the last few years, kind of top 10-ish. But they've dropped their levels this season and especially if you zero in at turning the ball, turning people over on D, because their turnover rate on defense is 222nd in KenPom. And defending the 3-point line, where they've historically been really good, they're down at 240th in 3-point percentage field goal D. So expect us to test the 3-point shooting on D and continue to move the ball with a balanced inside-out distribution of shots to hunt for 3-point shots on offense this game. Based on the metrics, this is projected to be a 6-point win for the Cougs on the road by KenPom. Based on what I've outlined, and that Coach Bruce Pearl is no longer head coach, and I think that does matter, I'm now predicting a slightly bigger win in this one. I'm also expecting it to be a much tighter rotation in that game versus the first 3 games, and we'll come out with an 8.75-67 win on the road.
Yeah, Seth's probably not playing this game.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's going to play either. So, but we'll see. This is exciting. It'll be our first test, and fingers crossed that we come out with a W. So that's it for this 60-second episode of the No Conference for Old Men podcast. Hope you all enjoyed it. And again, would really appreciate it if folks would follow, subscribe, or collect our podcast, depending on your podcast platform of choice. We are also available via the Republic of Football podcast feed from the folks at Dave Campbell's Texas Football as the only basketball-centric podcast. We're at the GoCoogs.com website for those that prefer to digest the content that way. We appreciate the continued support from all. Also, please give us a follow on our Twitter account, No Conference for Old Men. Thank you all again for listening. And be on the lookout next week, where we'll also start to cover a few other Big 12 games. So you can download and listen as our next episode drops. Take care, everyone.